Alrighty.
Today I don't feel like doing anything.
Okay, what kind of man wears a snuggie?
You do. What time is it?
Hi everyone and welcome to a brand new edition of What's That Movie. I am your host, Noah McGuire, and I'm joined as always by my lovely co-host, Kayla Marie Elbert. Kayla, how are you doing?
Very good, how about you?
I'm doing pretty good. We're back again for a brand new episode. You know, our green screen setup is not currently here, but stay tuned. Hopefully we'll be back up sooner rather than later.
We're doing the studio, just trying to figure out what works best.
Yeah.
Leave a comment below what you guys like better, the black screen, white screen, or green screen.
Or just movie posters.
Yeah, or just movie posters.
As you heard in the last episode, this episode will be about the Paranormal Activity series. A very popular franchise that has taken the world by storm, really, almost by accident. And we're going to talk about so much in this episode about these movies and beyond. So let's first talk about each of these movies. The first one, which started it all,
Bum bum bum.
This couple,
Mika and Kate.
Mika and Katie, or Kate, was it Kate or Katie?
Hey.
I think, I don't know, either one is right, but anyways.
I hope you so.
No, I'll keep it in. It's hard to describe how this starts, but Katie, since her childhood, has been chased by some demon or some entity or something, and her boyfriend Mika decides to document everything. I don't know, I don't think it was really explained in this movie. It does in later movies, but he decides to document it, and as time goes on, more and more stuff starts happening, and it kind of goes out of control towards the end. Like, what are some of the things that happen?
Blankets get pulled off of them, things get broken, they get slidden across the floor, dragged.
Oh, yeah, dragged out of bed, yep.
Thrown.
Oh, well, I'm trying to think.
Doors open.
Yeah. Oh, and she kind of gets possessed, or she does get possessed, actually.
Yeah.
At the end, you know, we're not going to give away too much, but you can definitely tell she is possessed by something, because she's kind of crazy towards the end. The second one actually takes place before the first one. Like, if you notice in all these movies when you watch them, they go further and further back. The first one actually is the most recent in their timeline. Like, this was back in the 80s. This was like probably a couple months before this movie, and it's just really confusing. But the second one takes about a couple months before the events of the first one, and it takes place with Katie's sister, whose family is being haunted by some entity, and is actually targeting their brand new baby boy. And during the film, they find out that that's what the entity is after, is the little baby. And during the movie, it actually slides the kid right out of the crib. Like, it is, actually I don't think it goes all the way out of the crib, but it goes up. But a lot of crazy stuff happens in this movie, like things fall out of the cupboards, and the dog, like, doesn't die, but gets really, really, really sick. And they have to take it to the vet, and Katie's sister gets possessed too. And it's just a crazy film. If I compare the two of them, the second one a lot better than the first one. There's a lot more that happens in this movie. I know you haven't seen it, correct?
Right.
Right. But you must have seen the commercials, obviously.
Some.
Yeah, back. This only came out a couple years ago, so it's hard to remember what commercials held, but That's about it for the second movie. And the third one takes place when Kate and what's her sister's name?
Christy.
That's right. When Kate and Christy are kids, little kids, when really it all started. And the third one's alright. It's not my favorite of the three because there's a lot of weird things in this movie that bugs me. Like any little thing bugs me in a movie. Like in the house they live in, I don't know if you noticed it when we watched it. This takes place back in the 80s.
1988.
Yeah, in the house they live in. Did you notice in the movie, like, I think it's in the parents' bedroom, they have, like, a fireplace in the wall, like the instant one. They have, like, a couple of those, actually, in their house. And I didn't live in the 80s, so I don't know if they actually had them back then. Did they have instant ones on the wall? Fireplaces?
I don't know.
I don't think they did, and it bugs me if that's supposed to be taking place back in the 80s. What do you think about the third one?
Third one I thought was pretty good. It was, I guess, different than what I expected. You know, when I thought Paranormal Activity, okay, gets possessed, blah, 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 and then it's almost like it's about witches.
Yeah.
Like, not really entities, but witches and their powers and what they could do and trying to get the kids alone, that way the parents...
Yeah. And also, because obviously this was a low-budget one, the first one, and then they got more budget, and like their budget keeps growing each movie. This one really shows it because the first one you really don't see much of the entity doing stuff. In the third one you see a lot. Like furniture gets thrown everywhere, people get locked in closets.
People say Bloody Mary and things just
start
kaboom,
happening.
You know, there's a tornado in the house.
In like one scene, there's a babysitter, and there's an entity behind her under a sheet, and right when the camera starts to pan away, it like disappears, and you don't see it in either these two, so you can obviously tell that they're doing more and more for this movie.
Right, which I'm kind of surprised on how far they would go in this movie to document all the entities. You know, they would find a fan, take off the fan head, and put the camera on it, and just let it swivel.
Yeah, that was smart.
You know, if the kids would have remembered that when they were older, why didn't they do it when they were older? What happened in between the end of this movie and the beginning of these ones?
Yeah.
What happened? It seems like they forgot what happened.
There's a lot of questions at the end of this movie, that's for sure. But, what was the third one? Like I said, there's a lot more happening in this movie. Does it really need that? Because that's what made the first one popular. Because I can't remember what show it was, but I saw a documentary about counting down the scariest movie moments, or movies, I don't remember. They're talking about Paranormal Activity, and they said the reason why Paranormal Activity is so scary to some people is you didn't see what happened, you didn't see what was there, and that's what creeped people out. In your opinion, does that, say the same for these two, or at least the third one, since you saw a lot more than you did in the first one or the second one?
It kind of makes me wonder, was it meant to be on purpose to show it that way? Because you would think that entities would grow stronger and stronger and stronger with the fear of the children. Obviously it was very active when they were younger. Why isn't it so active when they're older? If it wasn't doing so much, it wasn't showing itself so much. Yes, it went down to this little baby, which you would think would help it or something. The fear of the Katie and Mika, why was it just so dull? Was it like dying off? What is the entity?
Yeah, and I apologize if it did explain that in the movies, but I'm pretty sure it really didn't. I think it did a bit, but it doesn't say why it's there.